Well, the man who our racist president viciously insulted by calling him his boy, Biden's senior advisor, Cedric Richmond, he got his own back this morning. Watch.
What is the philosophy of the president?
Well, we will consult with Congress.
You nailed it, Cedric. What's the president's philosophy? Oh, let me check with Congress. I'll get back to you once I've been told what Biden stands for by Pelosi, or Bernie, or Pramila Jayapal, or AOC, or Ilhan Omar, whoever it is who's in charge of the president's philosophy these days. Here's how I put it last week. That's why it's all falling apart. Biden is nothing but an utterly mediocre machine politician surrounded by amateurs, hacks, and juvenile leftists. Little did I imagine that Biden's own senior advisor would confirm my critique so precisely within the week. Whatever you think of Bernie Sanders' ideas, when you watch him speak, you see blazing, consistent conviction about what he wants to achieve. When you watch Biden speak, you see nothing. On Friday, he limped up to Capitol Hill to break the deadlock on passing his agenda. He didn't break the deadlock. He just broke his promises. He told America he'd be a moderate, a centrist, that he'd unite the country. He can't even unite his party, except in their total contempt for him. Here's one Democrat member of Congress, Stephanie Murphy. I'm not clear why he came up to the Hill. I'm not clear why he goes anywhere, except back to Delaware. For over a year now, before the 2020 election since the inauguration, I've argued that the central defining feature of Joe Biden, the foundational defect that determines all the other defects, is that he is a machine politician with no beliefs or convictions or principles, someone who for nearly 50 years in politics has done whatever is expedient to advance his own career, someone who's pushed around by his donors, by the unions, by whoever holds the power in his party. And that's why, at this moment, in this Democratic Party, as I've said over and over again, Biden is the feeble puppet of the far left. Any possible doubt about that was removed this week. Every serious commentator has characterized the events of the past few days in the same way. A massive victory for the progressives and a humiliating defeat for the moderates. A defeat for Biden, of course, but also a defeat for Pelosi, the master legislator, forced by the left to pull her own deadline twice, and then still failed to pass the bill she promised would be law by now. Instead, it's going to be Halloween, apparently. That's her new deadline, Halloween. How appropriate. Already, their giant spending bill has shrunk by $1.5 billion. Instead of $3.5 trillion, the new number is somewhere in between $1.9 trillion and $2.3 trillion, we're told. Oh, is that all? Remember, this is on top of the $6 trillion they've already spent bailing out their own stupid lockdowns, and on top of the $1.2 trillion they want to spend on infrastructure. Just a couple of trillion, somewhere between 1.9 and 2.3. In the real world, that's somewhere between Albania and Venezuela. Of course, they're trying to pretend the real cost is zero. That's their new, insanely dishonest talking point. The real cost is zero because it's all paid for. Yeah, it's all paid for by raising taxes, and the people who are going to pay the taxes, as they always do, are the middle class, the small business owners. Democrats claim they'll cut taxes on working families, but what they actually mean is raising taxes on working families and giving some of it back in welfare payments to make them dependent on the government forever. To her great credit, Arizona's Democrat Senator Kyrsten Sinema is objecting to these tax increases. She says the Trump tax cuts should stay. Of course they should. They helped create the strongest economy in American history, historically low unemployment, a blue-collar boom with earnings rising fastest for the lowest paid. And for the crime of wanting to keep those gains, Senator Sinema is trashed by her own party and the media. And there we were thinking they loved a maverick senator from Arizona who threatens to sink flagship legislation. Joe Manchin, meanwhile, objects to the spending part, and he got to the heart of it on Thursday.
I cannot accept our economy or basically our society moving towards an entitlement mentality.
And that, in fact, gets to the central argument about the impact of what they're cooking up in Congress and about its very legitimacy. Bernie and the left are crystal clear about what they want to do. They want a political revolution. They want to turn America into a European-style welfare state with a metastasizing federal government bureaucracy controlling every aspect of every American's life. They're open about that. So let's take them at their word. But let's also point out that it's not just un-American, it is anti-American. America was founded on the idea of decentralized power, power in people's hands. No one should be overmighty, not the president, not the Congress, not the federal government, not the bureaucracy, checks and balances, separation of powers. This is the very essence of America, and the Democrats want to overturn it. As a new citizen of this country, perhaps my reverence for the Constitution is naive. But we have something called the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Childcare, family leave, community college, all the rest of it, I'm not against these things, but they are matters for state government, local government, neighborhoods, individuals and families. That's the American way. Instead, the Democrats want us to be like Europe. Well, look what happened in Europe when the arrogant Euro-maniacs and complacent bureaucrats pushed too far with their endless interference and dogmatic centralization. Nations fought back. Brexit won't be the last. I've seen it firsthand. These technocratic zealots, they talk about lifting people up and leveling the playing field and creating common standards, but in the end, it is all about imposing their ideology on everyone else. And there comes a point when people say, no, we have had enough. These reckless Democrats are putting the very integrity of America at risk with this brazen attempt at an unprecedented centralization of power and usurpation of the constitutionally protected rights of individuals and states. Will anyone stand up and challenge the constitutionality of the Democrats' giant government centralization scheme? And that brings us to the second fundamental objection. Where is the political legitimacy for this revolution? They keep telling us it's Biden's agenda. No, it's not. He never talked about this kind of transformation of the country with this kind of price tag. He ran as a moderate, as a centrist. This is not Build Back Better. It's Build Bernie's blueprint, which would be fine if Bernie had won the election, but he didn't. He didn't even win the primary. He was rejected by the majority of Democrats, let alone the country. Biden's puffed up ego and boundless vanity have led him to compare himself to FDR with the New Deal and Lyndon Johnson with the Great Society. But as Peggy Noonan pointed out this weekend, his party won the House, but only by a handful of seats. The Senate's 50-50. The country's closely split. Mr. Biden's governing margin is precarious, yet his economic proposals are sweeping as if he'd won the Great Society mandate of 1964. Lyndon Johnson's landslide was huge. 61% to Barry Goldwater's 38.5. Johnson came in with 68 Democratic senators and a 295-140 House majority. This entire shambles on Capitol Hill, with more to come in the months ahead, it is all in pursuit of a program that is unconstitutional and illegitimate, and we need to say so clearly. Tell us what you think at Steve Hilton X and at NextRevFNC, and share this message when we post it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.